To get him back, we have to use a time machine that Omni hid in his secret lair. The machine gives off a signal that Vector can trace. Thanks to our brains in Cosmos, we have hundreds of fake signal generators that will help throw Vector off of the real signal. Once the time machine is active, it will take anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes to find Omni. If Vector finds the site, he will attack in force to shut down the time machine. Omni will turn the tide of this conflict, and Vector knows this. With any luck, he won't find us, but we need to plan like he will find us. Why are we doing this instead of the older alphas? Wave asked. That's a good question, Prism said. One I have a good answer for, Darkspeed continued. Vector has been hunting the older alphas. That means he's been tracking their movements. If this many teams went off his radar, I'm sure he'd notice immediately. Olympian leaned in close to Cosmos and whispered, Is this where I tell him I used to bullseye womp rats back home? Cosmos smiled and tried not to pay attention to Olympian. If you make me laugh, I'll turn your armor pink. For this assignment, I've broken up our normal teams of 6, Darkspeed said. Why? Teams of 6 are how we were taught, Cyber said. And Vector knows that. He's designed his squads of 8 to be able to match us. Instead of a leader, they have a centurion. Instead of stealths, they have assassins. Instead of hitters, they have enforcers. Instead of anchors, they have hunters. And they have no brains or healers. For each squad, expect 1 centurion, 2 assassins, and a mix of 5 enforcers and hunters. My plan takes this change into account. Darkspeed walked to the white board and started drawing at super speed. When he finished, on the white board there was a map with drawings of the surrounding terrain. This is where the lair is, miles underground. On one side mountains, and next to that a large lake. Here is the most likely place Vector would port in or land villains. This flat area here. From here, he would have good visibility and be able to mount an attack, Darkspeed said. The first team we have that will engage Vector will be called First Wave. It will be led by me, and Cosmos, Olympian, Eclipse, and Ion will be the rest of the team. We'll be here right in the thick of it. Behind us, here, Darkspeed continued to point at the whiteboard and speak, will be Second Wave, led by Ranger. The team will be Orbit, Echo, Granite, Chain, Anvil, and Greco. First Wave will do what we can to thin their ranks, and Second Wave will take the overflow. Third Wave will be faced toward the mountains and the lake, just in case. Leader is Cyber, and team is Quake, Frost, Aztec, and Night. Third Wave will have the option of guarding our backs or engaging the enemy as needed. The next team is Hard Targets. She will be the leader, and our team will be Glimmer, Kinetic, Shroud, and Bob. She, your priority will be assassins that slip through the lines, Darkspeed said. Then why put a hitter on our team? She asked. You're right, Kinetic is a hitter, but he's a really fast hitter. If you should run into someone a little tougher, use him, Darkspeed said. Got it. The next team is Air Cover. Saber will lead. On that team are flyers that can attack from a distance. Sniper, Isotope, Newton, Shockwave, and Flare will take out anything that flies over us. Darkspeed then turned to face everyone. In the lair, we will have Virtuoso, Bioforce, and Prism. I also want Morph, Nano, Ghost, and Aid in the lair as eyes and ears as they work. Why us? Nano asked. Honestly, I decided to place those who would most likely be casualties in a safer place. That only leaves Jacked, who will still be working on systems here, Darkspeed said. What about Zoner? Her body is way weaker than mine, Nano said. She's a dimension shifter and will be out of play. Her power will be used to get wounded off the field. I'm sorry if this offends you, but that's my decision. Darkspeed waited for everyone to give him their attention again. I want Wave in the water, here. I want Gia in the foot of the mountains, here. If trouble comes your way, use your earth and water powers to your advantage. Otherwise, your designated healing stations. The mobile healing station is here, overlooking the battle. Zoner, Port, and Avian will be the transportation. Monk will stay in that location and wait for incoming. We're going straight there from here. On site, ask Cosmos if you need special armor or weapons. Any questions? Darkspeed finished with. What are the chances that Vector will actually come? Orbit asked. No one knows for sure, but prepare like you're positive he'll attack. After a pause, Ranger spoke. You heard the plan. Let's move out. As Virtuoso and the other teleporters started moving the Alphas to the grounds of what used to be Kodiak's home, Prism contacted Arthur by telepathy. Arthur, they're preparing for all-out war here. Do you think Darkspeed knows something we don't? Maybe, or maybe he's just being cautious. Either way, I can't redirect any teams that way or it would be a dead giveaway. Arthur thought back. We'll keep on the ready. If I give you a distress call, it will be for real. Maybe there is something I can do that wouldn't draw attention. What? Oh, gotta go. Prism saw her turn to teleport coming up. You let me worry about what? Arthur thought quickly. On Vancouver Island, a line formed in front of Cosmos. Omnium armor was the most popular item, followed by 1,000 in rifles for Echo, and then standard Omnium weapons. How long before you start scanning? Darkspeed thought to Virtuoso. We should be ready to go in 10 minutes, Virtuoso thought back. Cosmos, be quick, Darkspeed said. He looked at the sun and figured it would set in an hour or two. He wanted to be gone by dark. Olympian stepped in front of Cosmos and said, Armor repair and add spikes to the forearms and knees, and a Greek helmet of Omnium. Cosmos repaired his armor and said, Spartan-style helmet? Trojan war style, like the kind the first Ajax would have worn, Olympian said with emotion in his voice. Cosmos made a high-tech version of what he thought it would look like. In front of Cosmos was a shiny black Omnium helmet with a solid raised ridge down the center and cheek guards that followed the contour of the jawline. He made sure the eyes were open enough to allow Olympian to see, and then put on an Omnium chainmail chin strap. Will this do? Cosmos asked. That's perfect, Olympian said. I need full Omnium armor in my size with 10 times the spikes Olympian has, the giant Eclipse said. Cosmos covered him from head to toe with nasty spiked armor and then asked, What color? Plain steel, Eclipse continued. Could you make me one of these? Eclipse handed Cosmos a piece of paper with the drawing on it. In the drawing was a long two-handed pole like a mace. This mace had flanged edges that went half the length of the item. How big do you want this? Cosmos said as he looked up at the armored Colossus. Eclipse put a hand up to his chin and said, About this big, and make it weigh twice as much as Olympian's chopper. Cosmos laughed and did as he was asked. You got it. Orbit asked for a slimmer version of what Eclipse had gotten. The other hitters all jumped on board and were covered in armor. In their hands were Omnium weapons. Virtuoso called Darkspeed to inform him they were ready, just about as Cosmos finished his last order. Everyone listen up before we start, Olympian said loudly. What? Darkspeed looked at him with a confused expression. I have something to say, and I want everyone to hear it, Olympian said with force. The hitters came close and stood still as Olympian addressed them. It only took a few seconds for the other alphas to pay attention to what he had to say. Olympian took off his helmet and spoke. My name is Jonas Alexandros Farakis, of the Farakis family of the island of Crete. I will never have a secret identity. I will never hide who I am. My family has raised hitters since they were known as hitters. Before that they raised soldiers. Before that hoplites. Before that warriors. All the way back to the beginning of recorded time. My father raised me to be a warrior. He taught me many lessons about being a warrior. I didn't know how right he was until these last 2 days. My father told me that all actions in defense of your family are justified. He taught me to never hesitate, never think twice, never feel guilty about winning, and always press your advantage. Yesterday I hesitated and showed a man mercy. That same man then tried to kill me and told me how he laughed when he mutilated civilians. Do not underestimate the villains we are dealing with. At the end of the day, they do not retire to nice homes with white picket fences. They plan the murder and destruction of people who live behind those fences. The ones standing next to you are your adopted family, and the villains we face want them dead. All actions in defense of your family are justified. These are infected, rabid animals that will do nothing but reap destruction as long as they are able. They are monsters that need to be put down like mad dogs. If you hesitate, if you are weak, the person standing next to you may be the one who pays the price. I look at my teammates and I can't imagine what would happen to my soul if I let one of them down. My family has buried 9 in the last 2 days. If I could have fought harder or sacrificed more to save them, I would have. Today I can! Olympian put his helmet on and flew to his position. The other alphas stood stunned, some of them crying. Emotions were running as high as they could be. Darkspeed knew he had to say something inspirational, but it just couldn't come to him. Instead, he just yelled, Take your positions and be ready for anything. Start, Darkspeed thought to Virtuoso. After a pause, Virtuoso thought back. Prism just had Arthur activate the fakes. We're going. Cosmos landed next to Olympian and Ion. Eclipse walked up behind them with thunderous steps. Darkspeed blinked in next to them.